the Boss Up Your Podcast Management series. I am Lavelle. If you are new to my page, this is my Outsource Mondays page, which is my virtual assistant business, where I provide virtual assistant, podcast management, of course, and project management services for online business owners. And this is our second installation of the Boss Up series. So last quarter I did Boss Up Your Client Onboarding Process. This quarter I said, you know what, let's talk about podcasts, because so many people are talking about podcasts now. So many people are starting podcasts. Some people are managing other people's podcasts. So I'm like, this is a good place, a good topic to talk about. I don't know what that means. Facebook, you will have to give me more than that. So I felt like podcasting, was a good topic to talk about. So for next installments of the Boss Up series, if you have a topic that you want to hear more about, you can always let me know in the comments, and I'll add that to my list of things. Right now, as I've said before, I think we're doing it once a quarter for right now, so there'll be one more Boss Up series after this, and then 2022 we'll think about doing it maybe more. All right, so podcast management process. Do you have one? Why you should have one? Whether you're managing your podcast, your client's podcast, whether you're thinking about having a podcast, these are all things. They're all things that you need to think about before you start a podcast. I think a lot of people don't consider that it's a whole lot that goes into podcast management outside of plugging in your mic and recording. It's so much more to podcast management than just that. So I wanted to go through what I think the three areas, and there's like so much more than these three areas, and you can even drill down into these areas because it's so much more embedded in each one. But the three areas that I'm going to talk about this week are planning, recording, and production. So that's podcast planning. That's Tuesday if you want to know more about podcast planning. Wednesday it's podcast recording. See, go tell daddy give you more. Tell daddy give you more. Tell daddy give you more. Okay. Podcast recording on Wednesday and podcast production on Thursday, and then Friday it's just wrapping up the entire series. Hold on, let me open the life with kids, right? They always somehow show up in the back of a video or on the back of a Zoom call. But yeah, so that's the rundown for this week. Planning, recording, production. I'll break down each one. Hey, Rocky. Right. I'll break down each one each day throughout the rest of the week. So make sure you come back and listen. So why I'm going into this detail. So I run my own podcast, which I did like all of the planning, all the recording, all the editing for myself for, I would say, the entire first season. But as my business built up, one of the things that always happens is when my business builds up, I kind of start to ignore those things that are like my passion projects, I'll say. But I'm like, not anymore. So I had to kind of write down my own processes that I use so that I can allow people to come in and help me in my business. So I wrote down these processes, and now I actually have a team of like 3 people who are helping me to actually do the, the production, the editing, like all that stuff, so that I'm not pushing it to the side while I'm working on client things. So that's one of the big things that I'm going to talk about, making sure that you have these processes documented. And his little butt is not going to go downstairs and tell anybody what he wants. He's just going to yell from the top of the stairs. So make sure you come back for the rest of the week. Like I said, the topic is Tuesday is planning, Wednesday recording, and Thursday production. And then Friday, it's just wrapping it all up. My podcast is a weekly podcast called Drop the Aspiring Act. Right now we are on season 2, the fall season. So I do 2 seasons in my podcast. We'll talk about how I kind of plan that out, and how I feel like you probably should plan yours out tomorrow. So we'll get into the details of that tomorrow. So make sure you come back to listen. But yeah, it's all about bossing up your podcast management processes. You need to have it in your business, whether or not you're doing it yourself, whether you're doing it for a client, or whether you're just thinking about running your own podcast. These are things that you should consider. And then I've also been thinking about, me, I'm always thinking about something, but starting another podcast that's more business focused and in line with this. So as I'm going through this process, I'm deciding on whether or not I want to actually start a second podcast. And I already have that team that's managing the first one, and I'm feeling them out. Now it's, what do I want to start a second podcast again, now that I have that team to help and support me in doing both of them. So more to come.